Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, and my series Freemasonry and Satanism. Time to look at another set of books I've been making videos on. This is a PDF printout of the Phoenix Journal. They're free online. There's about 120 of them. You can just look up the Phoenix Journals. And apparently some kind of channeled material or somebody on the inside, Georges Searles Hanton, Hotfoot for the Phoenix, the Mossad connection. Mossad would be the intelligence service for Israel. So I've been reading and researching this stuff, dealing and understanding this for quite a while. So a few years ago I made video series, getting off to a slow start here. One through 7, Series 119, Freemasonry and Satanism, Book Review 119, Part 1, Part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a year or two later, I'm going to make Part 8. I just got this book in the mail. I'm always on the hunt for these hardcover books instead of downloading the free files. If I can find them, I buy them. Tangled Webs. Gotcha, Volume 1. Tangled webs are woven when the lies of man are spoken, and the weaving is deceit, from which man shall find no safe retreat. Apparently, Hanton's quite the poet. Don't you know it? Through truth shall come thy own route, for God attends the final bout. So it was interesting to look at some of the indexes in these books. This one I just got, apparently copyrighted 1992, but the way I understand it, there's really no copyright on these books. So I think the original online files say that, but then somebody else is printing them. And it says here, today's watch, why so weary? Security, speaking of coincidences. Goals of the Committee of 300, the secret groups that control our world. Special report, conspiracy to create a holy war. Dr. J. Coleman. So just a lot of crazy information I think people ought to look into. Like I said, you can get these free. And PDF, look up the Phoenix Journal. The one I'm going to read from today is this one, Burnt Offerings and Blood-Stained Sands, Psychopolitics, and the Sacrifice of the Phoenix. Remember Eurovision, like the American Idol program? In 2014, the winner was Conchita Wurst. Conchita had the head like Jesus with the beard and the body of a woman in a silky dress. There's a symbol all by itself. Androgynous, half man, half woman. And Conchita Wurst was singing the song, The Phoenix Rising, which has the words in it, You Can't Stop Us. And Conchita is a female sex part. Wurst is a sausage, a male sex part. Quite bizarre. So you get a lot of common denominators when you look into this stuff. So I did make part 1 through 7 out of the PDF I just showed you. And back then, when you read the journals, you can see different sources of the information, like the Spotlight newspaper. So back In 1981, Reagan team plans strong action, war with Iran. So when it does happen, just know it's been planned. People don't operate on the time scale that we all think. They do these things over 100 years, hundreds of years. Is Big Brother watching you? Assassins pursue free Cuba leaders. And other sources I got in my other videos I made, referenced in the Phoenix Journals, was Insight Magazine. You can go online and find these Document Yourself magazines, newspapers. AbeBooks.com is a good source for me. I have nothing to do with them. The Front and the Home Front. Stop Saddam Hussein. So one day they're arming Iraq, Saddam Hussein, to fight with Iran. And the next thing you know, they're destroying Iraq. Before 9/11, but they don't kill Iraq. And later on, after 9/11, they go in for the kill. What the heck is going on? And they're still demonizing Iran. But then again, they demonize the Palestinians. They've overthrown the government of Egypt, Tunisia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Ukraine, and so many other African countries, and assassinated leaders all over the world who were rejecting the plan for a global world order. And this is a lot to say, I realize that. But apparently there are secret forces at play trying to bring us a global world order. And a lot of people are talking about and aware that it involves the occult, secret societies, and apparently Israel is Zionist. And by the way, if you go look at my videos on YouTube, you can look under videos at my channel and you can actually scan through all of them. But you'll find many of them that reference anything to do with Zionism are restricted. And 148, World Revolution by Nestor Webster, series 148, a book published in 1921, who talks about who was behind the French Revolution, the Illuminati, high-level Freemasonry, and Zionist Jewish people, and using that as another stepping stone for bringing the world a global world order. And I was just watching a video today called I.O. about how the world was decimated, completely polluted, and the people who didn't leave the planet all dead. So there's plenty of movies that kind of show us what maybe they're planning by all these other things they're doing. Hunger Games, the movie, Divergent, Mad Max, and so many more. And listening to other people talk about, like the movie The Lone Gunman, I guess put out there a movie years before 9/11, but it shows planes going into the Twin Towers. So you probably can go on YouTube and find an edition of The Lone Gunman. And even in the Simpson cartoons and so many other movies, they show us the symbols and these activities before they happen, like the Illuminati card game. So what the heck is going on? And it seems to have something to do with the president we have now and the activities going on in the world, which seem to be accelerating. And apparently with the toxins they're dumping in the air and the installation of microwave transmitters and beast computer systems monitoring everything we do, some kind of military apparatus is being put in place whenever they pull the trigger and bring us a global world order or a disaster on planet Earth, some kind of plague, and then they threaten us with climate change, a pole shift, droughts, sustainability, terrorism, and then of course the propaganda that's anti-Christian, calling people who are opposing this new age philosophy of pansexualism and other degenerate activities, then there may be some good things in the new age in waking people up. But it doesn't seem like the benevolent forces are in control right now. It seems like the malevolent, the evil forces are in control right now. And you say, Rick, how can you say that? Well, maybe this video will help. So anyways, here during President Donald Trump's run for presidency in 2016, there was a document put out there, Breaking Israel News, and it says the BIN exclusive, Breaking Israel News, the Sanhedrin, that would be one of the legislative, leader, political, religious bodies of the Jewish people, asked Putin and Trump to build Third Temple in Jerusalem. 2016. So not too long ago, I believe 2018, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, announced that the United States recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, something they've been fighting for 300 plus years. And to get there, they had to bring us World War I and World War II. I've been going over that. Even documents in the newspaper prior to World War II announcing after the war the world would be pledged to the Jewish people. 1940. You can go online and find this and read it. Why would they take out a page in the New York Times in 1940? Clearly says right there, New World Order pledged to the Jews. Clearly says in this document that they were planning to get Trump to have Israel annex, take control of Jerusalem, where the Dome of the Rock, the Islamic Arab people's most holy sites, one of their most holy sites, which sits on the ruins of the ancient King Solomon's temple. And part of biblical prophecy is rebuilding King Solomon's temple. So I was also listening to a video this morning on a channel called No More News, KNOW, More News with Adam Green, discussing these issues with InfoWars' Owen Schroyer, and they were batting it back and forth, and Adam Green was accusing InfoWars, Alex Jones, etc., of being pro-Israel, pro-Zionism, hence rebuilding King Solomon's temple, which appears to be a threat to the entire world, this fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Because remember, when they do fulfill the prophecy, we have Armageddon, a worldwide destruction, a return of something like an Antichrist. And after that prophecy is fulfilled, then comes the second coming of Jesus Christ. And then I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube. I don't want to name any names. I need to continue researching this. But when you're watching some of these videos by popular speakers, and they try to convince you that Jesus Christ was just a mythological character created by the Vatican to control we the people, you have to say to yourself, wait a minute. If that's all fake history, then why are they trying to rebuild King Solomon's temple? Why did they publish this in the newspapers in 1940? So I have to read from this book for this video, but I have a few pictures to look at before I do that. So, George Bush Sr., my vision of a new world order foresees a united nation with a revitalized peacekeeping function. This is on a video, Lucifer's Apotheosis, Be as Gods and Arches of Baal Rising. So they were trying to put the arches of archway, a doorway, so you get something you can walk under, in London and New York. But a lot of people got wind of that. They publicized it. So they were actually putting these archways to this demonic demon. And apparently even the royal family is in on it with different events like the Evictus Games, Lucifer, Apophis, be as gods. You can go look this up, don't believe me. And you notice it says on that pyramid, which is on the back of the dollar bill, etc., and everywhere, it says, I am. So be as gods. And apparently it involves historic Egypt, Babylonia, Sumeria. So some kind of fulfillment of a biblical prophecy. Here's another card. I've got so many pictures I printed out over the years. But on that same video, the card says, in the Bible, Exodus 3:14-15, and God said unto Moses, I am that I am. You've probably seen that in the movie. And he said, thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation. And then, of course, they bring us events like this, with Madonna and some of the satanic rituals I keep talking about during Super Bowl halftime shows. And then, of course, a lot of the young people are being sucked into this, showing the devil sign, that people don't know what they're doing. Gene Simmons, I guess his real name is Chaim Witz. If people knew this, they would probably be outraged. But this is part of the rock and roll cult. He says non-Jews exist to serve Jews, and he's doing the devil sign like those girls were. You see how this stuff gets out there? So they were probably watching Gene Simmons, and people are sucked in and not knowing they're falling into the trap of some kind of demonic thing, as you can plainly see. And they were displaying a statue to the Satan in Detroit. First they tried to put the statue in the front of the state building in Oklahoma City. Then later on, after Detroit, apparently they moved it to Arkansas in front of the court building where they had on display the Ten Commandments. So apparently right now there's a lot of mind control going on. People don't know what to think. The stuff in the news, demonizing the Arabs, 911. The symbols of 911. Building 7 not hit by a plane. And you see the circle with the dot in it? That's a symbol in the occult for the sun. And you see the ruins of 911. And you see the circle with the dot in it. Why these symbols everywhere? And apparently these people have been involved throughout generations. The presidents of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Truman, and so many others, and the Egyptian symbols on their Shriner hats. So what to believe? When does the information become overwhelming? When people need to believe what they see, believe what they hear, and be able to understand what you see and hear. Like the coin coming out, some kind of coin commemorating the rebuilding, apparently, of King Solomon's temple. And remember, they couldn't do that unless Donald Trump announced that the United States recognizes Jerusalem as the capital. And so they moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And recently I listened to some other videos. Apparently other governments are moving their embassies from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And then you see the 7-candlestick menorah above Donald Trump's head. And then you see King Cyrus next to Donald Trump. And he was the last king that helped rebuild the Second Temple. And here's something else interesting in this picture here. Notice the lion there in this picture. And I just showed that picture with the Shriners. If I could find it, you saw the picture with the Shriners. So this is on the coin. There's the King Solomon's temple. And apparently to fulfill 70 years. So Donald Trump came just in time. It was all planned. Charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem. So this is biblical prophecy. People can go look this up. Guess another version of the coin. And apparently these gold coins are something called a half shekel. And part of the rituals or ceremonies on the new temple is when visitors go there to pay homage and worship to this God that they're going to bring us in this world religion, you have to donate a half shekel. So that's why they're making that. Just some other interesting pictures about ancient history, about what they're trying to do. And I have plenty of pictures with the Freemasons making models of King Solomon's temple. Look at these giants there. So what are we talking about? Ancient Egypt, the Freemasonic lodges in our cities, these temples over there in the Middle East, 911 and all the destruction of those countries, and all these ancient temples. Something interesting going on, don't you think? And of course in our city squares, I'm sure in your downtown city you've seen the pointy thing, the obelisk, a symbol for Osiris, who was married to Isis. We hear about Isis in the news, and they had a son called Horus, and we see the eye of Horus on the back of the dollar bill with the pyramid. I've had some people comment to me, "Oh, Rick, this is old news. Everybody knows this." Well, if everybody knew this, you know, that they're putting up a statue to Satan. I even had a commenter send me a comment saying, "Rick, Satan is really God. Look up the website, The Joy of Satan." You think people are being brainwashed? That's some more interesting pictures here. But even the Trump family seems to be kind of an interesting thing in the news. The daughter marrying a well-known wealthy Jewish man, and the son marrying a well-known Jewish female. And then their homes look kind of interesting. This is the guy who became president. The guy who screamed all the time, "You're fired." You think he was being groomed for the job? The guy who was firing everybody This is his residence in New York. I thought there was a lot of occult symbols, including the decorations, the symbols on the ceiling. You can go look up President Donald Trump or Donald Trump's mansion or Donald Trump's houses and find these pictures. This one looks like the insides of a Masonic lodge. So just saying, some oddities here. And his picture on a coin commemorating rebuilding King Solomon's temple. So a lot of people don't want to acknowledge the New World Order, global order, or the fact that apparently we are under attack. Allergic to science, proteins, allergens in our genetically engineered food. And I was just watching that movie, I.O., and the whole earth was apparently decimated in a cloud of poison toxins, and everybody died. And 100 ships left the planet for the people who were trying to flee and escape. It's almost like they're polluting the planet on purpose, socially, mentally, and physically, with all the toxins and stuff they're dumping from the sky, and the microwave radiations, directed energy beams, the fires. I was watching another video by a gentleman who claimed, you know, he lives in the country, and at nighttime he could hear the crickets. I'm sure we've all heard the crickets, but I'll bet you a lot of young people today have never heard the crickets. The bugs are disappearing. Some places birds are gone. Fish are gone everywhere. I noticed that. That's why I left Florida. I grew up there. I was always at the beach. I was always in a boat. I was always snorkeling, swimming, sailing. I saw the shrimp, the crabs, the fish my whole life. And then in the last 10 years or more, I noticed it was all gone. So I went up to Maine and bought some land. Maine! And I went over to the coast, so excited to walk out on the pier, thinking I was going to look into the water and see a bunch of little fishes. Nada. Nothing. I could not believe it. Maine! So I said to a few people, what is with this? Where are the fish? And they said, well, a few years ago, the United States government allowed the Russian trawlers to come in here, maybe some other trawlers too. And they had these huge nets, and they cleaned the fish out. You think something's going on intentionally? They don't want any food reserves left in the water, on the earth, in the air, in the water. They have a plan. A one-world government, a one-world economy, a one-world military, a one-world society, a one-world religion. Go watch this video. Welcome to Truth. Satanic New World Order. Illuminati Conspiracy. So when I make this video reading from this book, all of this is going to make sense. And of course we know about the mind control and the gun shootings and the bombings and the crazies. People like these people apparently under psychiatric care, taking medications, literally being hypnotized and mind controlled. Not me saying this. I didn't make this card up, this picture. You can go online and watch this video. Charleston shooting, Illuminati, MK Ultra, mind control, DLAN storm roof. And again, here's another picture of Madonna, her jacket, the pyramid, the all-seeing eye. More people at the statue unveiling in Detroit. Is this normal? Apollyon Rising is the name of this video. Saturn statue unveiled during largest public ceremony. Is this normal in any stretch of the imagination? But then again, mind control. When they gave the kids Pokemon chips 25, 30 years ago, I said to my friends, I know a little bit about psychology. When those little kids were looking at those little monster pictures, it was an imprint on their mind. It was images that they would later reflect in life, and it would spread, even with the cartoons and other movies and TV programmings. And if you go down to your city streets, is there any doubt that the Pokemon chips and the other propaganda worked? We're living in some strange times. Monarch programming is a mind control technique comprising of elements of satanic rituals, abuse, and multiple personality disorder. They understand the science of these things. They put it in the cartoons. Here's one where Miley dies in this episode of Family Guy after Stewie interfered with her programming. Is the real Miley also going to be killed in a blood sacrifice when she turns 27? I was watching Jordan Maxwell this morning in one of his videos, popular speaker, researcher, and he said to the person he was talking to in the video, did you know that in the hills around Hollywood, up on the sides of the mountain in those mansions, human sacrifice is going on every day? Jordan Maxwell said that in the video I was watching this morning. And of course, this is a picture of the map with some kind of biodiversity, wildlands project, Agenda 21 and the Reptilians video. But the red is going to be off limits to humans. And I'm sure it'll increase, and the people will be herded into the big cities. And with Fukushima, as most people know, spewing radiation into the Pacific Ocean, killing everything yet again. So there's no fish up in Maine, no fish off the coast of Florida. Birds, animals, bugs dying, trees dying, according to one man who farms trees, has a maple tree farm. And he says the trees are breaking right in half. And he says he's never seen that. Maple trees are really hard. It's unusual for that to happen, but they're all happening on his property. Listen to Dane Wigington, Geoengineering Watch. And Deborah Travers, we are under attack. Who, what, and why? That's why I make these videos, and I remind people of these pictures and things going on that should alarm people to no end. Who is destroying the planet? Fukushima. Who is having these coffins made stacked up everywhere? You can find this information on the internet. What's with all these symbols? Judaism equals Zionism equals Satanism. Judaism exposed Tex Mars. He's a famous author. You think he would know what's going on? Is he telling us? Judaism equals Zionism equals Satanism. And of course in the Bible, Revelation 2.9, 3.9, Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. That's what it says, last book in the Bible. Only a few pages, you can read it. I made videos on the entire book of Revelation of the Bible. Jews who call themselves Jews but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. You notice the common denominator in all these pictures? So there is some kind of spiritual battle going on. And I talked about this a lot. Dozens of children from Isa Pearl Flores School in Peru, outbreak of contagious demonic possession. Pause the video, write that down, go look it up. But if you look up demonic possession on the rise, you're going to find out all over the world. In Italy, they requested more exorcists. Ireland, they were training more priests to be exorcists. China was having an increased incidences of possession. America, Ohio, school children. Some girls had to be taken away in straitjackets. I got the pictures. I don't make this stuff up. I tell people. Nearly 100 children attacked by contagious demonic possession. They got billboards, California, I believe. This is a satanic symbol where the billboard says, "Never be hit in school again. Protect Children, Project.com. School teacher initiates students into Satanism." Well, I believe that was a good enough opening for what I'm about to read. Maybe it'll make sense. Now, if you're new to this kind of information, you haven't watched a lot of my videos or other people's videos, you might not really comprehend what I'm about to read. So that's why I always throw in a half an hour opening on my videos, so people who haven't watched any other videos can come up to speed really quick. I hope that makes sense. I do get people complaining that, "Oh, you're dragging it out, get right to the book," because there's a lot of people that are more aware than other people. And it may be that the people that are awake, it's like preaching to the choir, and that's not what we need to be doing. We need to be sharing this information with people who do not know. Copying the links to my videos or other people's videos and the pictures and the press releases, or buying the books and giving them to people. We need to wake up people. So again, there is a series of books published in the 1980s, 1990s called the Phoenix Journal. And there was 120 of them, plus or minus. And there are websites on the internet where they are free. You can download the PDF, or you can go to used bookstores like I do and shop around for some inexpensive ones and continue to collect the information, whether you print out the PDF or buy the book. But my goal would be to try to get all 120 books, but it's probably a lot of money. So whenever I see one that's really affordable, I scoop it up and add it to my collection. And so far I have 2, and there is a third one coming in the mail. And then I randomly flip this open anywhere and read 3 or 4 pages. And it's going to be alarming information. So you can find the Phoenix Journal online for free. Alarming information. Back in 1980s and 1990s, telling about the things that are going to happen today, the things that are happening, the things that have happened. Remember, from what I'm about to read was prior to 9/11. So there's been this long-term plan to bring about a global world order. And apparently, planet Earth, we humans, are under attack right now. They're putting toxins in our environment, every aspect of it, in the medications, in the water, in the air, in the food, in our minds, psychological propaganda, social conditioning, mind control, whatever you want to call it. So anyways, this is chapter 21 I'm going to read from today. A tidbit from what's in the book, which should be valuable information for anybody who wants to know what the heck is going on. WTH. Chapter 21, record number 1, Hanton, Sunday, January 20th, 1991, 8:05 a.m., year 4, day 157. So maybe he's been dispensing this information for 4+ years, 4.5 years, and they've been making these journals. But this is journal, not quite sure what the number is. I'll have to go look at the chart. So today's watch. So apparently he was giving these messages every day. In the beauty of this wondrous day, I come to share. We shall walk the path laid forth by God unto our proper growth through His grace. Hanton. The heart rebels against the isolation caused by the attacks upon your person, Dharma. So it says here, the heart rebels. So your heart rejects against the isolation caused by the attacks upon your persons, Dharma. 'Tis the way of it, child. So apparently people back then were attacking the Phoenix Journal. People did not want this information to get out there. Do not become faint of heart, for there are others who also bear the task of bringing forth that which is, and they too feel abandoned by brothers and neighbors, and it is not theirs to carry this burden alone any more than it is yours. So I've had a lot of people who watch my videos saying they've tried talking to family and friends and nobody will listen and they get alienated. So apparently when you do wake up, you do have problems with the bulk of the people, the majority of people who refuse to acknowledge the very things we can all see and hear. Like it says in the Bible, you have eyes but do not see, and you hear but you do not hear. It says in this book, we shall be strong enough and big enough to meet the task, for it is the promise of Creator that we be given no more than we can bear. Do not tarry and worry about Gigi, for there is nothing that you can do about it save stop the writing. We will tend to Gigi and DG, whoever they are, and the others if they keep within our shield. Yours is to write that which is given for the awakening and historical data to be preserved by the written word. The confusion comes only from the conscious mind, not the receiving pulses. There's a big highlighted sentence here. How do you fool a nation? Very, very easily. First, you program the masses and then give them a storyline conjured to bring a desired effect. So I do know from my research, World War I, World War II were conjured storylines that were not true in the newspapers to inspire among the citizens a patriotic fever to go to war and destroy the evil Germans. And of course, next it'll be destroy the evil Iranians, destroy the evil Iraqians, destroy the evil Christians, destroy the Chinese, destroy the Russians. On and on and on. And people seem to buy it, hook, line, and sinker. For they cannot even be sure that they heard what they thought they heard. You see, slip-ups do occur frequently, and then again your own reason and logic tell you that what you are receiving cannot be factual. Pay attention and wait. And within a few hours, for a few days, the story will change. And the story does change all the time. Truth never changes. So it says here on page 157, let us consider day before yesterday and what was pronounced just prior to a break for advertising on CNN. You must understand that all reporters of news and all interviews on CNN are structured from scripts to impact Saddam Hussein and mislead you, the people. They tell you that fact over and over again. Just prior to break, it was announced that in the upcoming segment after break, there would be pictures of Iraqis parading captured U.S. prisoners through the streets. Never again was it even mentioned, much less shown. So one day they're showing pictures of Iraqis parading U.S. citizens, captured prisoners in the streets, And then the next day, the whole topic completely disappeared. The news is controlled. I believe a lot of people know that. The people at the studio greatly erred. So apparently the people at the studio weren't supposed to put that news out there. However, to fit the story, make you furious, today came the message that Iranian TV had taken pictures of the Iraqi parading blindfolded U.S. captives in the streets. Well, after much interrogation, so they said, it was such that nothing could be actually identified. And just like in the Middle East war since 9/11, there's been a lot of that false stuff in the news, false news, fake news. People apparently being beheaded on TV, which really didn't happen, or accusing Saddam of gassing his people, which really didn't happen. But we can be sure that they are destroying those countries over there. You can go on Yahoo image site and put in bombed buildings and see all of the towns and cities, and everything is totally destroyed. It is not a battle against terrorism over there. It's a destruction of entire countries. And of course, they're either killing the people or shipping them into Europe or the United States and probably Central, South America, all over the world. Somebody is emptying the people from the Middle East. And then, of course, if you go on YouTube or Yahoo image site or the internet and look up Greater Israel, you'll see the maps of Greater Israel extending from the Euphrates River in Iraq to the Nile River in Egypt, the ancient property lines of the ancient kingdom of Judea, fulfilling biblical prophecy, and rebuilding King Solomon's temple, fulfilling biblical prophecy. And even President Donald Trump appears to be one of the leading Zionist politicians assisting the Israel First policy. But a lot of people in the United States don't see what's really happening, but the continuation of the attack on our environment and on our social conditioning is taking place every day. Believe what you see, believe what you hear, and when you hear things, try to discern whether it's true or false. And if you know what the end game is, the global world order, you'll probably be in a better position to translate what they're saying into common sense. So, but parading, etc., is against the Geneva Treaty for treatment of prisoners. And we will treat all captives solely by Geneva rules, you proclaim. First you deny there could ever be any captives. Then you pronounce a whole different scenario to cover the first lies. So this was published back there in 1991. 120 of these journals with all kinds of just unbelievable information that people need to know. Free online PDF, the Phoenix Journal. I've got nothing to gain if you go get them or find the used books and buy them. Probably buy these things by the new books. Sure, somebody will print them out and sell them on the different used book sites. You can check that out. Then next, in every interview, it is stated that the material is for the emotional impact on Iraq. Finally, it came through yesterday that pamphlets were dropped along with bombs on the Iraqis. So they're bombing the Iraqis and they're dropping pamphlets at the same time to turn the populace, the people, against their leader Hussein. Oh, yet this came from your military leader in the sector. And they did that during World War I, when Germany was winning World War I, and then the elite Jewish people, Zionists, made an agreement with the British leaders, the Balfour Agreement, that if Britain won the war, Britain would assist the Zionist Jewish people in obtaining the Palestinians' land to create the state of Israel, and then the country, ancient kingdom of Judea. And they were dropping pamphlets all over Germany during World War One, so that the Jews in Germany would rise up against the German peoples, betray them, where they were living happily, surviving and thriving after fleeing from the Russian territories. Back to the book. I tell you again that all anchor persons and network owners and managers have instructions to release nothing uncensored, nor show any pictures not made available by government and military as approved. And who controls the U.S. government and the British government? That would be the banksters, the Illuminati, high-level Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Club of Rome, and the Zionist Jewish people into these mystery religions, the Kabbalah, i.e. witchcraft and sorcery. Believe it or not, the symbols are on our money, they're in our city squares, the obelisk, Washington, D.C. street plans, a gigantic owl, Moloch, and apparently Bohemian Grove in California, they have a giant statue of the owl, Moloch. They throw a baby in a fire called the cremation of care. Alex Jones snuck in there with a video man. They took video. You can go look at it and see it. It's right out of a horror Halloween movie. But it's real. And this is where they made the Bohemian Grove. Einstein and other people, that's where the idea hatched up for a nuclear bomb. So you can connect the dots and see the evil we're all facing. And then that movie, I.O., and so many others, you can see what they're planning. They want to depopulate the planet. And this is an anti-Christian thing. And remember, in a way, we are entering a new age. The scale of time is measured by the 12 astrological constellations. And we just left the age of Pisces. So 2,000 something years ago, when you woke up in the morning, and if you were standing by the pyramids, the constellation of Pisces would arise at the crack of dawn. And then 2,000 years later, now, if you go to the pyramids in Egypt, and it's summer solstice, one of those occult holidays, when the sun is to the furthest point to the north, so the middle of summer, June 21st, and stand there looking at the three pyramids. The constellation that's starting to rise right now is the age of Aquarius. So there is a new age, and these people have plans, and that's their calendar. And 2,000 years from now will be another age, and the end of the age of Aquarius. Who knows what will happen then? But apparently somebody's trying to seize control for this age. And in the beginning of the last age, 2,000 plus years ago, when the age of Pisces started, which is the symbol of fish, and the symbol for Jesus is the fish. Get it? Got it? So all this is connected, and all these organizations like Freemasonry and Rosicrucian, Illuminati, all these mystery of Babylon religions are deeply embedded into these mystery religions, ideas, the different ages and the gods and the demons. So what is God's real plan, and what should we do? Apparently we should wake up and use our minds so we can make sensible choices, not like those pictures I showed you of people who apparently are making the satanic choice. So maybe that's what it's all about, because if you think about it, nobody lives on planet Earth very long. We did come from the spirit world. We're going to return to the spirit world, and apparently this is a temporary situation. So what is the plan? We don't know, but we are here, and apparently, like it says in the Bible, those who have eyes but don't see, those who have ears but don't hear. And then, of course, it says, seek and ye shall find, ask and ye shall receive. So if you want to find out the truth and search for the truth, it'll fall in your lap, like apparently it falls in my lap. A little bit mind-boggling, but apparently it's out there. People look up at the sky and see those jets streaming by, dumping tons of chemicals, and most people just want to stay in denial. Or they see those microwave towers right beside the road with gigantic power boxes, and if you walk over with your binoculars and look 40 feet, you can see the warnings of radiations labeled all over them. So everybody who drives down that street with that transmitter, with dozens of transmitter on top of it, obviously it's dangerous. And there's plenty of material. Even the people at the United Nations have had people bring it up and discuss it, and scientists are organizing against the installment of all the 5G systems and the directed energy weapons and the weather control and the weather warfare and the fires in California and Canada and all over the world where people are witnessing laser beams and other technologies. The smart meters on the backs of homes have ignited, burned down houses. Oh my. Back to the book. But you can know what is going on by that by which they lie to you about if you pay attention. So anybody can know what's going on if you want to pay attention. If you know the end game, then you can see why things are happening. You can see, well, look at the Middle East, for example. All those countries that were overthrown, all those people that were murdered, and a lot of them evacuated from the area, marching up through highways and byways into Europe, shipping them here to the United States in parcel planes converted to passenger planes, carrying them like cargo, and buses waiting for them at the airports and taking them into rural communities throughout America. So once you see what happened, and you understand why they had to do 911. They had a purpose, but they had to get it past the people, the citizens. So the 911 was a false flag. The same thing with Pearl Harbor. They had to get the United States citizens patriotic and angry at Japan and angry at Germany. So what did Germany and Japan have in common? What could they possibly have had in common other than the fact they were trying to, the people in their areas after being attacked for so many years were uniting to form a group, a smaller country. I think Germany, there was 200 small little states, but they were continuing to be attacked by France and Britain and other countries, that they had to form bigger states to protect themselves. Japan, a lot of people know that France was probably controlling China and Britain was controlling India. So all these outside forces were controlling the Asian countries, and Japan wanted those people to unite and control themselves. So the reason Japan rose up and tried to do that was because of the oppression. The reasons the Germans were united was because of the oppression. And apparently even the French were involved in the civil war between the North and the South in the United States. So they've been interfering, and they've always wanted to, Britain has always wanted to regain control of the United States. They never forgot. And we the people just don't think that way, so we don't believe it. But it appears to be the case. And they have time on their side. They have installed all these spies amongst us. All these people are politicians and leaders coming from all these secret societies. Everybody knows that. George Bush and the Skull and Bones, John Kerry, Bill Clinton with the Rhodes Scholar. Who are the Rhodes Scholars? People who were planning to control the world. That's where Bill Clinton came from. And if you look back at Truman or Franklin Delano Roosevelt, I just showed you the pictures, high-level Freemasons, Shriners, all into this mystery religion of Babylon. Back to the book. The next title here is Patriot Missiles in Israel, page 158. In view of all the bombing by Scuds in Israel, it has become necessary to offer the Israelis more cover and protections to keep them from retaliation. So, they tell you that they are going to ship in some Patriot missiles for anti-Scud protection. So apparently it's in the news that America is going to send some Patriot missiles to Israel because apparently the poor Palestinians who don't have any money, where would they get Scuds, are launching them into Israel. But listen here. Then, within 1 hour, they are setting up these incredibly technical launchers, which they will take the Israel's weeks to learn to operate, and with your military personnel, and within another hour, these incredible technological launchers are in place and ready to use. So it's in the news that Israel is going to be supplied the Patriot missiles because of the Scuds that keep landing. And then within an hour or two, they're actually installed, and the people are already trained, and they're firing the Patriot missiles. So it was all planned. Where do you suppose the Scuds came from? You think it was really the Palestinian people? You have to have a cause and effect. If you see what's going on since then, you know they want to depopulate Palestine and rid that country of all of the Arab Islamic peoples. They have plans for a greater Israel. You can go online and look up the maps. All this stuff is quite easily verified. So when that story simply did not fly, so there were people back then in the newspapers that said, wait a minute, you're announcing in the news today that you're going to send Patriot missiles to Israel, and then within a couple hours they're already using them. How can that be? So when people started questioning it, the story simply did not fly, according to this book. They came back and said, well, the system was already in Israel in case something like this happened. By the way, I assume you noticed that Engelberger and the Undersecretary of Defense advisors to the president are in Israel. So all this is planned. 9/11 was needed. World War I, World War II, they wouldn't be where they are now. Israel would not exist if they didn't have those world wars destroying countries and peoples and the banking systems and crashing the economies and bankrupting countries and assassinated presidents like John Kennedy, who said that secret societies are repugnant to the American way of life and I intend to expose them. It's a sad situation we're in. Back to this book here, Phoenix Journal. Did you not also marvel that the 6 Scud missiles, which were haphazardly launched and poorly targeted, etc., etc., that death and or destruction was missing in Israel? In Tel Aviv alone, one landed in an empty apartment and must have carried a weak payload because it did very little damage. Another landed in the street directly in the middle and blew off the fronts of buildings, but no one was injured. The deaths which did occur were caused by the Israelis themselves, 2 of which were children who had suffocated in the gas mask incorrectly fitted. So the only deaths that happened were when the Israeli troops arrived on the scene, where apparently a Scud missile was smoking and put gas mask on the children. The children suffocated, according to this book. And don't believe everything I say or what's in these books, but when you watch a lot of videos and you see the bigger picture and you review the past 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, biblical prophecy and everything else, like with No More News with Adam Green, please go watch him. And pay attention to InfoWars' Alex Jones. You know, are they really supporting Israel first? And do they say the truth about who was behind 9/11, the Zionist Jewish peoples? Or are they bought and paid for? I rather believe that InfoWars was a good site to go get information. I have the old magazines and so much more. So I've always been a fan, so it was interesting to listen to the conversation between Adam Green of No More News and Owen Schroner of InfoWars. It does make you wonder and ponder, but I still believe InfoWars does put out a lot of good information, waking people up that there are some forces bent on destroying our world. And even Owen Schroner was admitting that is the case. But he didn't like Adam Green focusing on these other issues that maybe that InfoWars Alex Jones was pro-Zionism. And again, the only videos of mine that are censored, and you have to agree to warnings to be able to watch them, are Zionist videos. And I've made a lot of book reviews on the topic of Zionism, and the only book review that YouTube took down and gave me a strike was on Nestor Webster's World Revolution, talking about the Illuminati, the Jewish people, and the high-level Freemasons overthrowing the King of France, executing him and the Marie Antoinette, his wife, and proceeding to slaughter all the other people that would interfere. And then for the next 100 or 200 years, France was taking a lot of war activity into Europe, and one targeted area were the Germanic countries. So France was the aggressor, but who controlled France? That would have been the bankster, Illuminati, Zionist, secret mystery religion, high-level Freemasons, and other occult organizations, just like Britain in the 1600s when their king, Philip, was executed, and Cromwell welcomed the Jews from Holland to the north, who had fled all of Europe, because back then, 1600s, 1500s, 1400s, all the Jews were banned from Europe and all the countries. Why were they banned? And what came about with the world when they were all brought back and put in control? That's where we are today. And apparently, if you want to really interpret what's going on, that's what this stuff that's happening in this book with Israel today, and the control of our news media, and the banking system, and the poisoning and toxins in our environment, and the mental psychological conditioning, demonization, promotion of Satanism, and pansexuality, transgenderism. The people, the citizens, are confused. And a lot of them probably don't even know it. But a lot of people will admit, it does seem kind of weird right now, Rick. Things are strange. One guy commented on my video, he's thinking about getting his truck and his camper and going remote. He's freaking out. And then you watch a movie like I.O., like I watched this morning, and maybe there's reason to freak out, but I don't think that's the solution, nor is violence the solution. The thing they don't want you to do, like Rabbi Marvin Antelman wrote that book, 2 books, Volume 1, Volume 2, to eliminate the opaque. They don't want people to believe in God and pray to God and do what God wants, because if we all did, God responds and takes care of us. It even says in the Bible, he who seeks refuge in me, I shall be thy shield. Jesus said, whoever believes in me will be saved. Jesus added one commandment. You can look it up in the Bible. That you are to love one another. So the opposite is what we're fighting with the satanic forces who are bringing us all this insanity. It is a spiritual problem we're facing. And we are entering a new age. There's no mistake about that. The age of Aquarius. And now if you watch a lot of videos on YouTube, they'll say, oh, Jesus really didn't exist. But then again, you start listening to those videos, and then they talk about 320 AD after Jesus' birth. The Council of Nicene, the Vatican, embraced Christianity and included the 4 books of John and Peter and Mark or whatever in the Bible. So if Jesus didn't exist, how did those books, documents written about Jesus exist? It doesn't add up. You watch Edgar Cayce, the channeler, America's most famous prophet, and you listen to what he says about people's past life during Jesus' time. Was Edgar Cayce lying? And all those other people in the New Age and Theophist Society, Helena Blavatsky, Rosie Crucians, all those books mention Jesus to one degree or another, trying to maybe even hijack Jesus' teachings for their own control. You got to pay attention when you watch the videos. Don't just believe what the guy is saying or the girl is saying. There could be some valuable information in a lot of that material, but it is kind of a tough job to get the truth out. All right, back to the book. Dear ones, says Hanton in this book, Scud missiles are sophisticated and can be directed through an open doorway from any type of Scud launcher, over 1,500 miles away from target. Does not something smell of rotten fish in this scenario? So they have these two missiles or bombs that go off in Israel that are like large firecrackers, actually, not a Scud missile. And Hanton's saying, doesn't something smell rotten? And then, of course, the next thing you know is the Patriot missiles are already in place before they announce it to the American people. Try to cover it up. Sounds like 911 and all that deception. Building 7 was never even hit by a plane 40 stories high. And you can watch the pictures and it completely free falls. And even that one demolition expert, Denny, whatever his name was, in Denmark, one of those countries up there. I got those old videos. He says right there that watching the videos when shown Building 7, he says, I've never seen these pictures before, these videos. Of course that's demolition. And shortly after that, he was dead. So I guess this is a serious business, this conversation about what they're planning for the world. And it was kind of disturbing to watch that movie this morning, I.O. Go look it up. Apparently a new movie. But they completely covered the whole planet in some kind of toxic waste and killed everybody. And then you go outside and you see how much chemicals they're dumping in the sky. Or go out at night with a high-powered beam flashlight and just aim it straight up and look into the beam. You won't believe what's floating around in the air. Heavy metals, little gleaming particles. And remember, we're breathing that stuff in. Some people are saying it's some kind of weaponized microchips and other heavy metals that are getting in our bodies that are able to interact with the installation of all those microwave transmitters. So it seems like we're being attacked from numerous directions, from all sides and from underneath and from above, on the TV, cell phone, billboards, school system, medical system, economic system. Okay, back to the book. Now, this morning comes intelligence, information that Iraq has at least 140 more Scuds neatly parked deep underground on immovable launch pads, mostly aimed at Israel. So now they're saying Iraq has all these Scuds. Where would Iraq get them? I'm sure they weren't manufacturing them. Where are the 6? Perhaps missed in the massive bombing raids of over 2,000 sorties a day. So they were bombing Iraq 2,000 times a day. Oh, by the way, the same intelligence source says that Saddam has known nuclear facilities with bombs also deep underground. So apparently Saddam never had any nuclear missile sites underground. And by the way, if he did, where would he get them? And why does Israel have nuclear missiles? Where did Israel get it? That's a whole scandal on its own. But again, these people control the United States, so it was rather easily to steal all the technologies. And it was in the news. The people were arrested. But they got it. And apparently they have the President of the United States right now who recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and all those other countries that might be moving their embassies, according to a video I was watching this morning. Just saying, what are you going to believe? P.S. There have been no missiles sent to any Saudi Arabian city. The Iraqis did knock out a desalination installation near the Kuwait border. Now, you will also note that the only participants on programs such as interview programs and Larry King are pro-war personalities who rave at the brilliant job President Bush is doing. Brilliant. Apparently there's a lot of talk on videos on YouTube right now that President Bush Sr. was intentionally executed. And apparently, same thing they say about John McCain. Who knows what to believe? And then you listen to Q or Anonymous and you hear all this stuff. That there's thousands of sealed indictments in the work. Apparently, mass arrests are going to be taking place. I say we the people are being taken for fools and they're lying. They're moving ahead with their depopulation plans like a freight train coming right at us. That's what I think. And the people need to wake up. Me, I'm not worried. I believe in God. I try to be a decent person. I believe that Jesus Christ was real. And it says in the Bible, he who believes in me shall be saved. So if they're promoting all this information that he wasn't real, would you think that these satanic forces do not want people to be saved? Knowing that nobody gets off of Earth or planet alive, does somebody want those souls? Is it soul snatching? Are they using deception so people will lose their souls? And people don't want to see that component of what's going on. But the fact is, listen to Edgar Casey, listen to the other channelers, use some reasoning, listen to the Bible, listen to Jesus. And Jesus adding the commandment, we are to love one another. What is so horrible about that? If we didn't have all the wars and murder, and we didn't have our children looking like ghouls and monsters, and we had a nice, happy paradise planet. What is wrong with that? It has to be some kind of seriously demented demonic force who would want to destroy family values and decency. It just puts a whole different dimension on your thinking if you can grasp the concept that evil is alive and well and wants to dominate in the new age, the age of Aquarius. All right, executive order already active. So this is Hanton speaking on page 159. This morning came the word that an additional 350,000 reserves would be called up. The same announcement said that this can be done because of the signing of a national emergency order allowing the same. What year was this? January 20th, 1991. Dear ones, with the signing of that one order, you lost your rights. All of them I shall prove of it to you. Page 159. So like I said, you can go find the Phoenix Journals free online PDF. You can print it out or just read them online. Download them to your computer before they're gone. I got all 120 of them. Burnt offerings and blood-stained sands, psychopolitics and the sacrifice of the phoenix. So apparently there was some legislation passed that Hanton wants to talk about now. In this neighborhood of a typical town in Southern California, in the heart of California oil, go to the Chevron distributor and ask to have, say, a 4,000-gallon tank filled with diesel fuel. You will be told that they, along with the major oil-producing companies, are on daily allocations. Sorry about this. Sometimes I get tongue-tied. I need a drink. So back then, 1991, if you tried to go get 4,000-gallon tank of oil, diesel fuel, you will be told that they're on allocations. So legislation has been passed. I remember one time during one of those runs on gas where everybody was in the long lines trying to fill up their tank. They had a maximum amount of gas you could get, maybe $50 and no more. And I suspect whenever they do whatever they're going to do, that's going to be a massive situation across the country for all of the resources we need. So it probably would not be a crazy idea to have some emergency supplies on hand. Because of all the predictions and stuff in the news about the EMP and the electric grid collapsing and all kinds of threats. And some people are saying that the government shutdown right now is all a planned event and a trap, that it's not about the wall. And of course, I believe the wall is not to keep the Mexicans or Central American and other peoples out. I think it's to keep the Americans in when the event happens. You really believe they want millions of Americans to go to south of the border and rearm and retake the country, get away from the electronic surveillance systems? Just saying. It promises to be a huge kill event, murdering the citizens, a depopulation event for people they don't need. And interestingly enough, after World War II, we had something called a baby boom, where people were doing quite well. The country was doing great. And a lot of families had 3, 4, 8, 12 kids. Now do the math. All those people would be elderly about now. Do you suppose they don't want to support the elderly people for the next 20 years? Imagine the trillions it's going to cost medically and the Social Security checks and retirement plans. So it's a huge financial windfall if they bring about a collapse of the system and kill a lot of the elderly people. I know it's a mentally ill mindset, but apparently that's what we're dealing with. So apparently back then they had allocations, and the national emergency order was signed by the president, and cannot even service their own old customers with full loads, and are having to make the shortfall and more expensive weekend deliveries in smaller increments. When asked why, you will be told that the companies are on a product control program at the orders of the President of the United States. So be it, in 1991. And we see all these warnings and all the videos and in the news, even by the President himself and the leaders, the shutdown that's been going on longer than any other shutdown, so they say in the news. And apparently they are dumping chemicals in the sky and acting like it's an emergency event to install the microwave transmitters. Even the states like New York and North Carolina and other states passing legislation that communities and citizens can't interfere with the installation of the 5G system. Why would the government go out of its way to pass legislation that nobody has any input to the installation of these systems? Well, if you put the whole story into context, and you can probably see why. What is planned? Go look at that movie, I.O. I tell you right now that the communications media has been taken over by the administration. So this is Hanton back in 1991. And apparently they really have it under control these days. And with the ability, I suspect, but to listen in on us on our cell phones, even when they're turned off, our TVs and smart meters and facial recognition systems, and in our cars, all of these electronics have been installed with equipment to spy and control and track us. It's really crazy and insane when you think about it. Scary. Let us get right down to the list now that have become orders through the executive order now in effect. Number 11490. Read them and weep, America. That's what Hanton says in 1991. And I'm fairly confident that these legislative orders have not been rescinded, like the Patriot Act, which is not patriotic, and the other legislation we all know about where they can abduct and imprison anybody, not tell their family, no entitlement to an attorney. And apparently since 1933 we've been under martial law, so we're not under the Constitution anyways. So if you do wind up being dragged in because you're speaking hate speech about Zionism, and they want to accuse you of some law that's passed about hate speech being illegal, or heresy, for example, because apparently in secret they passed something called the Noahide laws recently, in secret, attaching it to some famous Jewish person's ceremony because of his birthday or something. So they passed some kind of legislation honoring this famous Jewish man and attached it, the Noahide laws. How appropriate is that? And apparently the Noahide laws say that heresy can be punished by beheading. And it's the law of the land now. We're not a constitutional country, according to Deborah Tavares and many other people, with the bankruptcy in 1933. So the president is actually the CEO of this huge USA Inc. corporation. And of course, we know what the CEOs have been doing. They have not been working for the people. This is all common information. The middle class has been killed, and homeowners are being turned into home renters. Where did America go? Where did we go wrong? Anyways, read them and weep, America. I further tell you that the governor of California said this morning, the demonstrators will be removed by force, if necessary, from the campus of your state university, UCLA. So whenever they collapse the grid or declare martial law, collapse the economic system, tell people you got 24 hours to turn in your greenbacks to get this new currency, which will probably be microchipped, and a financial reset. We hear all this in the news every day. So they'll dilute our wealth. And like they've done 8 times since taking over the USA money supply in 1913, creating the Federal Reserve, which is not federal, owned by individuals, mostly of the Illuminati, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Morgans and Schiffs, Astors, and these other names, DuPont, even Kellogg. Think about that. Kellogg. Go look in Fritz Springeier's book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. When I saw Kellogg, I thought, man, I hope the children's cereals are not tainted. But then I think of other major brands of food and accusations, fast food franchises that people are eating and becoming obese or diabetic. We are under attack. And if they control the food stream, oh boy, we're in trouble. They could just slip it into the food tomorrow. The water system, the air, the microwave transmissions, abducting people secretly in the middle of the night, disappearing people. When will it really go crazy? Will it? Are people praying, talking to God, asking for it not to happen? Are these people unveiling statues to the devil and praying to the Satan beings, Lucifer beings? Yes. All right, so the edict has come down. Moreover, to stop the demonstrations against the war. So if they do declare war, let's say against Iran or Russia, the whole country is under martial law. And to protest, I guess, becomes a crime that's arrestable and possibly executionable. You could be killed. And they have all the police and military, all this legislation in place because of the so-called shootings and bombings and terror events, when a lot of it seems to be created by them to use against us. So anyways, he's got a list of these executive orders in this book. Burnt Offerings and Bloodstained Sands, Phoenix Journal, free online PDF. I keep saying it because I'd like people to not believe me. Go get these. There's 120 of them. Thick books, a couple hundred pages. This one's 230 pages. Download them to your computer, read them, print out pages, hand it out to your friends. Spread the word, and I realize it's a lonely world. People will try to abandon you, family and friends. But think where you'll be spiritually. And don't promote violence. Promote prayer, talking to God. The spiritual power is much more powerful than their demonic spiritual power. I believe that. So here's a list. Of the executive orders. Pause your computer. I'll hold it a minute. You can write these down and look them up on the internet. Executive Order 10995 takes over all communication media. Executive Order 10997 takes over all electrical power, petroleum, gas, fuel, and minerals. Now remember who controls our world right now. And the pursuit of a global world order. The installation of all the surveillance systems and weaponized microwave systems, dumping chemicals, preparations for a revolution worldwide, anti-Christianity efforts. And these are the executive orders that are in place. That should concern anybody. Executive Order 10998 takes over all food resources and farms. So you could expect if you have a big chicken farm or pig farm or whatever, crops, the government will come in and take over. Executive Order 10999 takes over all means of transportation, controls highways and seaports. So nobody will be able to just go down to the bus station and go for a bus ride. Maybe you want to get back home. There'll be guys there with machine guns. Papers, please. Papers, please. Do you have your papers? And you're in a computer, so when they run your ID into the computer, they're going to know whether you're a red dot, yellow dot, or green dot. Red dot, probably you're dead. Yellow dot, you might go to a training facility or some kind of work farm or prison factory. Green dot, lucky you. You joined the satanic Luciferic team. Welcome to the world. Hades on earth. Executive Order 11000 drafts all citizens into workforces under government supervision. I guess nobody's going to just stay home and hunker down. They'll be coming for you. Executive Order 11001 takes over all health, welfare, and educational functions. There probably won't be any Social Security or retirement checks in the mail. Executive Order 11002 empowers the Postmaster General to register all citizens nationwide. Crazy stuff in these books. Executive Order 11003 takes over all airport and aircraft. And if you know anything about the Postal Service, and if you've ever got any of that stuff in the mail, checking to see who lives in your house or surveys in the mail, I've gotten these things. They know who lives in every house. Everything is documented to an uncanny accuracy right now. I've been paying attention. This is January 19th, 2019. Executive Order 11004 takes over and finance authorities, housing designated as unsafe. So the rural people will be forced into the cities. Establishes new locations for populations, relocation communities, builds new housing with public funds, FEMA camps probably, with trailers, and no facilities there for a long time stay. So it doesn't appear to be a good prognosis for survival. Like what they did to Germany after World War II, the Morgenthau Plan. They had a lot of Germans exterminated after the war. Men and women and children, prisoners. Morgenthau Plan, look it up. Russian Revolution, 1917. 100 million plus or minus people slaughtered. over 10, 15, 20-year period just prior to World War II. Look at the dates on these things. Executive Order 11005 takes over all railroads, inland waterways, public storage facilities. So they have all these storage facilities. I guess if they took over the country and martial law, imprisoned the people, designated where you have to report, somebody's going to have control of all of that stuff and all of those storage facilities everywhere. Do you ever think about that? That's a nifty little resource for somebody. Executive Order 11051 designates responsibilities of the Office of Emergency Planning, giving authorities to put the above orders into effect in times of increased international tension or economic or financial crisis. I better read that one again. Executive Order 11051 designates responsibilities of the Office of Emergency Planning, giving authorization to put the above orders into effect in times of increased international tension. Do we have that now? Has President Donald Trump caused enough agitation to China and trade agreements and other countries? Pulling the troops out of Syria recently, and Blackwater says, "We're coming." So some people on some of the YouTube videos saying that those troops are either coming here to America because of some big event or are going to be used in invasion into Iran. Who knows? Increased international tension or economic or financial crisis. Do we have an economic or financial crisis on our hands right now? Apparently, according to Deborah Tavares and other people on the YouTube videos, they're bankrupting all of our communities, towns, cities. And none of this has to happen. These people are supposed to be smart people. They don't need to crash the system. But that's not the plan. They plan on crashing it. They plan on a global world order. They plan on a depopulation event. The evidence is overwhelming. I've showed the pictures at the beginning of this video. I could spend the next hour showing more pictures that I have. I got 4 shoeboxes full of pictures on these topics. Over 600 videos on YouTube. So many other people's videos. Seems to me that Adam Green and No More News is right on target trying to warn people. Alex Jones, I've been warning people for a long time. Maybe there are people behind the scenes that can threaten some of these people so they don't talk about certain things. That could be the case. Seems to be the case. Look at President John Kennedy saying that he was going to expose these people. He's assassinated in a Masonic plaza, Delaney Plaza, with the obelisk right there. Abraham Lincoln wanted to have America print its own money. He's assassinated. Prior to 1913, when they took over the USA money supply, apparently these elites, Zionist, Jewish, Illuminati, secret mystery religion, synagogue of Satan, whatever you want to call them, did not control the United States money for about 50, 60 years. 2 presidents were assassinated. There were more assassination attempts. But a lot of the politicians in the USA in the second half of 1800s knew what was going on. We're fighting these people. But these people were relentless. Then they bankrupted the United States after they created the Federal Reserve in 1913. In 1933, after World War I, probably America had to borrow all the money from these banksters to give us our own money. And that bankrupted the country, so it canceled the Constitution. Did Britain get back the colonies? And who controlled Britain after 1600 when they assassinated or executed the king? Cromwell and all the Jewish people from the north, the banksters, who were banned from all the countries in the Europe at that time since the 1500s and 1600s. All those countries, Spain, France, Britain, the Jews were banned, and many other countries. But they found their way back in. And this is where we are today. And a lot of Jewish people, regular citizens out there, are probably not aware of this. Some of them have written books and made famous speeches. Benjamin Friedman's famous speech. If you doubt anything I say, go on the internet and type in Benjamin Friedman's famous speech. John Kennedy's famous speech. Nestor Webster's book, World Revolution, 1921. Or many of the other books that I've gone over. Go watch my other videos. There's a plethora of amount of information out there. If people don't want to see it, I guess there's nothing we can do. All right. A little less than a half an hour to go. So they have all these executive orders passed. There's plenty of information on the internet. You can look up 1933, bankrupting America. All these things I've been talking about. You can look at the pictures. On July 20th, 1979, all these orders were combined into the single executive order 11490 by the declaration by the President of Economic and Political Emergency or Crisis. All of the above executive orders automatically come into effect. And I sincerely believe that they had already planned to have the system crash, probably in the year 2000. But you know, the United States is a big country. There's a lot of people, a lot of wealth. So they had to delay their plans. And since then, they've been attacking our system little by little. And if you've been paying attention, you are aware of that. So Hanton says here, don't believe me. It's a question mark. Don't believe me? Let me quote from John F. Kennedy speaking at Columbia University in 1963. The high office of the president has been used to foment a plot to destroy America's freedom, and before I leave office, I must inform the citizens of their plight. 10 days later, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. So you can go listen to his famous speech. But it says it here in the book that that's what he said. I don't think Hanton was lying. You can go listen to the speech. So when you talk about journals like this, 120 of them on YouTube, not YouTube. I'm sure there's plenty of videos on YouTube on these books. But on the internet, Phoenix Journal, and they're all 200 plus or minus pages. That's a lot of information. Somebody could just get these journals and make videos on YouTube and spend as much time until the big event happens trying to get the people to wake up. And I think it's also a spiritual issue about waking up. So you know mentally in your mind which side you have chosen. Will no one hear or see? That's the next highlighted paragraph here. Not only are you facing disaster in Saudi Arabia, where your president has gone against everything America stands for to further his new world order, but the Congress of the U.S. doesn't take action or prevention either. There are a lot of you angry taxpayers voting out there on the lines, but dear ones, the clamps are coming down hard and swiftly to silence you. And I have gotten comments from people who watch my videos and subscribe to my channel. One guy left a comment on one of my recent videos. You can go look at it and look at the comment section. He said, Rick, I'm not getting notifications about your videos. And so a lot of people say that they see some anomalies, odd things happen into my channel. And my videos usually don't get more than 50 or 60 views, even though they get a good percentage of thumbs up and no thumbs down. Most of them say 100% positive response. So apparently there are active forces that do not want this information out there. And again, no more news. Adam Green seems to be trying to get it out there, having problems probably with the powers that be. And InfoWars apparently shares a lot of good information. Are some of these people out there using it in a reverse strategy, wanting the people to rise up just so that they can pull the trigger and start killing the people? Even Nancy Pelosi said that once. She called the American citizens something like this. I'm paraphrasing probably. Can't remember everything exactly. But she was pretty much saying the American people are like cowards and don't rise up to what's being done to them. Think about that. The powers that be that have done what they've done to us continuously, and they're still doing it, and the people don't rise up. Are we so far gone? But luckily for you and I, there are more beer breweries in our downtown areas, more parties, more fun. Stock market booms and making people a fortune. House prices are up, flipping houses, making a fortune. Are people being intentionally distracted? Drugs and so much more. Pharmaceutical battles going on, people taking drugs. All right. Now note that the clamps are coming first upon the young, who simply do not wish to go and perish for a political war, even though they do not understand the full ramifications of the actions underway. And a lot of young people are more awake than maybe some of the older people. But the problem with that is a lot of them feel that it's a hopeless situation, which a lot of people feel like there's nothing they can do. But I disagree. First of all, it's 100% important that you have your mind right for yourself. We are spiritual beings in these biological bodies. We will be leaving the planet. And maybe they have different dimensions where people go. One is the underworld, Hades, hell. The other one's heaven. Maybe there's more to it. It's more complicated than that. Probably. But at least I wouldn't want to be going to the dark side, who seems like they're trying to recruit everybody with all this transgender, pansexual, satanic teachings. Just saying. When Jesus taught we are to love one another, he was giving us a direction. These other people were bringing us 911 and all this other murder and theft and destruction are not teaching us that we should love one another. So we all have a choice. To me, it pains me to no end if even one person dies. Think about 911. Each one of those individuals that were falling 100 stories to their death. One person is too much for me. Those millions of people in the Middle East, in Iraq, for example, machine gun fire, bombs, missiles, women and children and fathers and family and elderly men and women. If one people is killed in that horrific way, it's too many. But that's my gut feeling, my empathetic nature. People who are watching this video, you have to ask yourself, do you have that kind of feeling? Or are you heartless? Do you don't care? Do you know people who are heartless and don't care? And people who are accused of, Jordan Maxwell was saying in a video I was watching this morning, that in the hills around Hollywood, human sacrifice, child sacrifice is going on every day. All those politicians who are into child sexual abuse, pedophilia, apparently is going on every day. Where do you think they're going to wind up at the end of the day? Certainly not someplace where I want to go. All right, back to Hanton. Sorry I ramble on. Strange things have happened, citizens, which might merit some thoughtful pondering. For half a century, your government has told you that they were the only force standing against world communism. And they have milked hundreds of billions, 3 trillion alone, for your current military arsenal for the defense against the USSR. So that's all been one huge deception. Yet, on at least 15 major occasions made public and dozens never having been made public, the administration has stepped up and saved the evil empire. I believe the Soviet Union was called by your presidents when on the edge of total bankruptcy. It has been your government which has stepped in and bailed them out while giving billions of dollars into the hands of the corporate elite. So I know during World War II, Russia, over the U.S. military and the U.S. citizens, was given a blank check pretty much for everything that it wanted, from tanks, trucks, food, pianos, even blank plates where you can print money, and apparently the designs for the nuclear bomb. They controlled the United States president, which was one of the high-level members of the Illuminati, these secret societies. And then, of course, between World War I and World War II, Britain, again, the Illuminati secret elite, Zionist Jewish folks, were financing Hitler. It's all been orchestrated. Back to this book. Next, that this has been going on for the past several years. You give the Soviets $2 billion worth of food credits. You had already bargained to give them all the grain in storage in your country, finalized at Gorbachev's visit. Now you speak of giving another $2 billion food credit. This is no food shortage in the Soviet Union. Only an inadequate method of distribution, just as you are headed for, my friends. So apparently they're going to break down or destroy the distribution system in the United States of America, probably Europe and the world. Go watch the movie I.O. Hunger Games. See what's happening. Read the Bible, read prophecy, watch other people's videos. Go see the No More News, Adam Green. Go watch Alex Jones, listen to what's being said, or Owen Schroyer, or other people, Dane Wigington, Deborah Traveris, Richie from Boston, and so many others. All the while, there is no cutback in the military buildup, nor armed forces increases. So while all this is going on, they're selling billions of dollars of weapons to Saudi Arabia right now. It's been in the news recently. You can look online, laser beams fired from aircraft. They have some crazy weapons. And apparently they have advanced technologies, anti-gravity, and are behind the flying saucer situation since World War II, where apparently the Hitler regime, financed by Britain, the Illuminati, the Zionist Jewish folks, elites, were in communication with some kind of cult beings, getting the designs through psychic abilities, telepathy, the Vril Society, Thule Society, all those ancient Egyptian symbols. It's all connected. The armed forces of the Soviet Union are building faster than at any time in the history of the nation. So it does seem to me, if I had to make an analysis of what I've been saying in all my videos, the leaders of countries all over the world, i.e. some kind of communist type of world government, will be put in place. Apparently, according to biblical prophecy and other material I've read, the controllers, the people who will actually be manning the slavery, planet Earth slavery factory, will be run from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and with all the advanced technologies and weaponized systems and monitoring systems, facial recognition systems, the controls will all be imprisoned on the planet. They won't have to actually go out there and, with the police car and knock on your door and say, is so-and-so here, and arrest them. They have technological weapons that'll do the job quite efficiently. Everybody will be tagged with some kind of metadata. What you say, what you think. They know what you purchase, where you go, who you talk to, who you know, what your intent is. If you go to church every Sunday, they know. If the Noahide laws are correct, they're going to exclaim that Jesus was not a savior, and anybody who believes in him is guilty of heresy, and heresy, according to the passage in the United States of Noahide laws, which you can go look up, is punishable by beheading. And if you look up 30,000 guillotines purchased by the government, about that point you ought to have goosebumps. And then, of course, a lot of people will say, no, that's not true. There's a lot of information out there to discredit everything. And the pictures of all the coffins in the FEMA camps, legislation passed. Doesn't hurt anybody to be aware and a little bit prepared. If they did turn off the electric grid tomorrow, what would you do? Do you have any kind of plan in place? Do you have any dried goods? Do you have any source of water? I mean, do you realize you could just go outside and take a 5-gallon bucket and find a place where you could use the restroom? You do not need an indoor toilet. For thousands of years, they didn't have these nice indoor toilets. Where could you get water? Is there a stream nearby? Will the stream be polluted if they put a bunch of crazy poisons in the air? Do you have a well? Do you have a small generator that you could hook up to the well to get the water out? You might be the most popular person in the neighborhood if you had a well that was hooked up to a pump and you had a generator. People could come fill up their gallon jugs. Just saying. Are we thinking? Should we at least have some basic fundamental plan? What if they did say there was some kind of huge nuclear radiation leak? Do you know how to even protect yourself? Putting up heavy blankets over the windows, staying indoors. Do you have a radiation meter? I've got a couple of them. All right, back to the book. You, the people, are told that it is the humanitarian thing to do. But you notice there is no humanitarian effort to say, deduct 50% from the congressional pay, increases to set aside for the humanitarian gifting. Aren't you taxpayers a bit weary of feeding your enemy, housing your enemy, watching your own ever 3 million homeless citizens, countless millions actually hungry and homeless? Apparently there's a huge epidemic of homelessness these days. And like I said, with the prices of rent, think about it. Not too long ago, you could rent a one-bedroom apartment in most cities for $600, $700 a month. And now, if you can find one for $1,000, you're lucky. $1,300, $1,400. They are trying to pack us in like sardines. People are forced to live in groups. Shouldn't be that way because there's so much wealth in America. But I do know that with the Jewish political PACs in Israel, they've been siphoning off billions every year to Israel. So the Illuminati, Zionist Jewish people, not all Jewish people, high-level Freemasons, not all Freemasons, witchcraft organizations, etc., or other occult organizations. They are well organized and they have a huge satanic plan. Back to the book. All right, it's about 6 p.m. on this Saturday, 19th of January 2019. Apparently we have some weather going on outside. My computer flickered, crashed, so I lost the last 5 minutes of the video I was making. So I'm going to repeat what I read and finish this video. Why do you not demand from the administration and Congress just what mechanics allow the spending of funds and making gifts of your property to feed or house your enemies? So we are financing Israel and all of the Illuminati banking forces and corporations which are taking over our world. We're allowing it to happen. The same group of international gangsters who now have you involved in Saudi Arabia, set up the previous wars involving the United States of America. I've said that. World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much more. Assassination of presidents and the bankruptcy of countries all over the world. And now your Congress is 3/4 in control of Zionism. So I've been saying this and saying this. It is not me, people. It says Zionism right there. We know who they are. We know what Revelation 2.9, 3.9 says. We know all the symbols that we see in our society. The buildup of troops in Saudi Arabia has left your own homeland totally devoid of any defense system whatsoever. You have no combat-ready troops remaining in your national boundaries, and very few ready reserves. They too are moving out as quickly as the political facade can arrange. So I did take some notes here. Donald Trump on the coin, King Solomon's Temple, World War I, World War II, 9/11, 2018. So when you're reading a book like this from the Phoenix Journal, if you're paying attention to reality, like Jade Helm 15 in 2015, when they were going door to door in a lot of small towns practicing for martial law, apparently closing a lot of Walmarts and setting up facilities to contain supplies or even imprison and house people. Apparently guard towers built around these facilities and chain link fences. It's been in the news. We're all aware of it if you've been paying attention at all. But I am quite confident that a good portion of the population is completely oblivious to these things. Will they be surprised when the powers that be intentionally take down the grid? No more sewer, no more water, no more food at the grocery store, no gas at gas pumps. Remember, no electricity, no gas. Is your gas tank full now? You might want to think about that. Do you have any dry goods or foods at the house? Just saying. I guess it's kind of smart to be smart. Prepare. How was the United States of America set up and founded? Let me remind you, for you, as a nation, have forgotten and abdicated your responsibilities. You are, as God's blessed and chosen, were given responsibilities. So here we were, born into these bodies, if you're me in the United States. A wonderful life. Some problems, we all have problems. But we watched after 9/11. And we remember World War I, World War II. We know there are forces slaughtering people and overthrowing nations. What is our responsibility as a spiritual being, as a human being? I believe there is some, and I certainly believe we're not owning up to what we should do. I know people, family members and friends will ridicule people who try to say something's amiss, but there's plenty of evidence. Giving our responsibilities, the exercise of which would bring of promised blessings to the other nations and families of the earth. Let us look at just 4 of them. So go watch that movie, I.O. Think about it. And if we have a nuclear holocaust, think about it, where the powers that be have spent the taxpayers' money to develop all kinds of plagues and viruses and all these technological systems in place, microwaving people. Think about it. We paid for all that. We allowed it to happen. Supposedly, as a leading nation, we were to provide healing for the sick, the blind, the deaf, and the lame. You were to be God's instrument through which oppression would cease and prisoners be released. We as Americans, we were to transmit to other nations and peoples the benefits of the righteous law of God. You were to spread throughout the world the knowledge and grace and love of God. So according to Hanton in the Phoenix Journal, you were sent forth and gifted with a nation set above all other nations, that you might fulfill your task as laid forth. Further, you were set up and set forth as caretakers for the creation as represented in your wonderful planet. And we know that the bugs, bees, waterways, fishes, trees, people are getting sick. We're allowing these forces to destroy everything. Dumping all those heavy metals in the sky. Yet from the beginning, you allowed the evil to come within and eat away at your very substance. Now you have given away the wondrous gift of freedom and God's blessing into the hands of the manipulators and the deceivers. Wrathful God. Well, God speaks for self. And if I were in your shoes, or the ones who allowed this and abetted the evil in bringing this upon your blessed nation, I would be most nervous indeed. Like I said, I believe we're spiritual beings. We do wind up in the spirit world when we pass off this earth. We're going to have to answer for what we've done. And we're all, sinners to some degree. I was a person just enjoying life. Out there surfing or sailing or powerboating and listening to music and swimming pool parties and barbecues and working and doing my job. Not really paying attention to all the unfortunates throughout the world. Shame on me back then, but I didn't know. You hide your head from the truth and treat facts of truth as if they are a poison. And that's true right now. Nobody wants to hear the truth. But let us consider just one issue, that of race. So the next topic in this book, which I'm not going to read, is what about race? So much material in these books. I highly recommend you go on the internet and find the Phoenix Journal. Couple websites. 4 Seasons is the one I think I use when you see the results from your search on, if you search on Yahoo. So thank you for watching my video. Leave a comment below, of course a thumbs up. Pass the videos on to friends. And I know, and I don't know what I can do about it, but people who subscribe to my channel say they're not getting alerts to my new videos, and some people saying the comments are disappearing. I do believe there is an information war going on. We don't know when whatever is going to happen will happen. But apparently there's plenty of warning signs. Thank you for watching my video, Rick Miracle reporting.